You know as well as I know that the Asmongold pizza was created for someone who does not want to wait and does not want a ton of work into their food. It wasn't the best pizza I've ever made, but it was really tasty. And it was made by a bunch of people after that, which was really cool. If you guys like this pizza recipe, I look forward to seeing other people make it too. The pizza that I'm gonna show you today is just like that. It takes a little bit longer. We're gonna let it rise a little bit this time. We're gonna let the yeast and the sugars and the gluten structures, we're gonna let all that stuff happen. And I've done this by hand and use the stand mixer, so you can do it both ways, and I'm gonna show you how. There's gonna be 3 different options for you to make this pizza. You can let it rise 1 time, which only takes an hour. You can let it rise 2 times, which takes 1 hour plus about a half an hour, 40 minutes. Or you can let it rise those 2 times and then pop it in the fridge and let it rest overnight and then make your pizza the next day. All of these recipes are delicious and come out great every single time. And guess what? The reason I'm a little puffy lately is because I've been eating too much pizza, because I've been trying it with different flours as well. So I've tried it with all-purpose flour, I've tried it with bread flour, and I tried it with 0.0 flour. And my absolute favorite flour that I've done so far is bread flour. All-purpose flour was good, it crisped up nicely, but the chew wasn't exactly what I like in a pizza. The bread flour added a little bit more of a chew without being chewy and without being like flappy, okay? There wasn't a real flop in this pizza. It held together very nicely, and that translated to the actual chew, and I hate this word, but the mouthfeel of it, okay? So bread flour is the way to go. And then maybe the easier part, after we've got our dough made, we're just gonna plop it into a steel pan and throw it right into our oven. And it's gonna come out crispy on the bottom, gooey and cooked how you like it on the top. It's real easy, guys, I'm telling you. So here's the ingredients that you're gonna need: 2.5 to 3 cups or 315 grams or 375 grams of flour. Like I said, I like the bread flour. You're also gonna need 2¼ teaspoons or 7 grams of active yeast, which really equates to 1 full packet of active yeast. 1 teaspoon or 4 grams of sugar, 1 cup or around 240 milliliters of warm water, and we want that water to be around 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius. And in talking to some pizza making experts with years and years and years of experience making pizza for restaurants, the warm water doesn't matter as much. You just don't want it so hot that it'll kill your yeast, or you don't want cold water, because what happens is during the kneading process, you're going to generate a ton of heat, and enough heat to really get that yeast working and eating up those sugars inside the dough, okay? So don't worry about getting exact temperature, you just don't want it burning, okay, or too cold. 2 tablespoons or 30 milliliters of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon or 5 to 7 grams of salt. Now, I like my dough a little on the saltier side, so I go 7 grams. I've tried it with the 5. I do like the flavor of the 7 grams. I think it makes a difference. The first thing we're gonna do is activate our yeast. Before we do anything else, sorry if you hear my kids yelling in the background. They're downstairs playing and they are just having a ball. So in a small mixing bowl, add your warm water and then add your teaspoon of sugar and get that stirred up so that that sugar dissolves into the water. And then take your packet of yeast and dump those little animals right in that water. You're gonna wanna wait about 5 to 10 minutes till you see the yeast start to really get foamy. That means the yeast are alive, and that means your packet of yeast is going to do good things for your dough. If it doesn't foam up, don't necessarily worry yet, but it may be a sign that you got a dead yeast packet and to try another packet of yeast, okay? So that's why we do this step first. While we're waiting for our foamy little beast animals to work up, we wanna get our dough mixture put together. So we're gonna start with that 2.5 cups or 315 grams of the bread flour, the olive oil, and the salt, and we're gonna go ahead and put that in the mixer. Or get a big mixing bowl, okay, if you're doing this by hand. So once your yeast is nice and foamy, go ahead and add that to your dough mixture. And like I said, if you're using your hands, you can go ahead and get your hands in there, or you can use a wooden spoon and get it stirred all up. Or you can go the easy route if you have a stand mixer. And I know that bald guy has one because it's been in every single one of his videos. Super easy to use, put it in, lock it down, hit a button. Now add your dough hook and set it to the first setting. and let that go and get it all stirred up. Now, you really wanna watch this part because this is where we're gonna see how much flour, if we need to add more flour, how much flour we need. So we're gonna watch it, and if it's too sticky, you'll notice it's sticking to the bottom of the bowl and it's really not mixing into the rest of the flour. And so if you see that after about 2 minutes, it's still real sticky, go ahead and add a little bit of flour, maybe a couple tablespoons of flour at a time. That's pretty much what I like to do. So in this B-roll that you're watching, I actually had to do that twice in order to get our dough mixture to stop sticking to the bowl. Add a little bit, get it stirred up a little bit. If it's still too sticky, add a little bit more. That's why we have that range, okay? And you're gonna let this knead, whether in your mixer or by hand, for around 6 to 8 minutes. Just keep it going. And like that first video, just channel all that anger you have for whatever makes you angry inside, whether it's video games or politics. Oh, it's an election year. We don't talk about elections or politics on this channel now. Woof. Use all that anger you have, no matter where it comes from, and put it into the dough. If you got some love in you, put a little bit of that in your dough too, okay? Pushing, you know what I'm saying. Now, once you've got it to the point where it's just a little tacky, not sticky, but tacky, and you can actually stretch it a little bit without it breaking too easily, that means we've got our dough pretty much ready for our first rise. You're gonna throw some flour onto your work surface, kind of form it into a ball with your hands, and you're gonna take your pinky finger and your ring finger, and you're gonna kind of guide the dough under it while you spin it with your left hand. Pull the dough under while you're spinning, and we're gonna do that for about 35 to 45 seconds just to get a nice tight ball of dough, okay? Once you have that done, just take that whole ball and just give it a couple spins right on your work surface. And now, super simple. We're just gonna take a big bowl, drizzle it with olive oil, and then take your dough ball, plop it in that bowl, and then roll it around in the oil so that the oil covers all of your dough ball, okay? And now I like to cover it with 2 towels and set it on my oven and just let it go for about an hour to an hour and a half. And you're just gonna let it sit there, okay? You want it to kind of be a warm place, so if your house is a little colder, my house is set to 70 degrees, that's what my thermostat is set at. But if your house is set a little colder than that, and you see your dough isn't rising that well, either turn up your thermostat, or you can turn on your oven real low, like say 200 degrees, set it on your stovetop and let the exhaust from your oven keep your dough in a warmer spot, and that should help it rise a little better. For the next 60 to 90 minutes, go do whatever you want. Go play some games, go take a nap, go get some fast food, whatever you want to do, okay? Just set a timer for that 60 minutes and then we'll come back after that 60 minutes. So now that 60 minutes or 90 minutes is up, you should see what looks like this, okay? Your dough should be doubled or even a little larger in size than doubled, okay? And it should have a nice big pillowy feel to it. So next thing we're gonna do is punch that dough down. You don't have to go real hard because you're gonna hit the bottom of the bowl and you're gonna break your hand, but just push the dough down to release all the air that's trapped inside of it, okay? Now we're gonna take that dough, form it back into a ball, 2 fingers, turning it in a circle on a floured surface, and then we're gonna weigh it. Now, I like to weigh it just so that I get 2 even-sized dough balls. You don't have to, you can try to eyeball it if you want, but you probably will end up with one pizza larger than the other based on there could be an air bubble in your dough ball that you don't see because it's on the inside. So try to weigh it. If you don't have a scale, just try to eyeball it, okay? You can see with this dough ball weight here, so I went with just around 300 gram dough balls. That's usually what I like for a 12-inch pizza. That's what we're going for here. We're using a 12-inch pan, so we're going for a 12-inch pizza. So after you have your dough balls weighed out, form them back into a ball that same way. Floured surface, 2 fingers pushing the dough down, pushing it in a circle at the same time, rolling it in a circle into a ball. At this point, you could absolutely roll your dough out into a circle and make your pizza. I've done it this way and it comes out great, but it can be better if we do a second rise, and that second rise doesn't have to take so long. So back into the bowl with the olive oil. You can get a little extra drizzle of olive oil on it if you want to, I'd like to. Cover it back up and let it rise again. Hopefully it'll double in size again in that 30 to 45 minutes, and I promise you're gonna have an even tastier one. But like I said, if you're in a hurry, that first hour rise will do just fine. At this point, go ahead and push the convection button on your oven if you have one. If you don't, no big deal, but convection is best. So get that convection going at 450 degrees Fahrenheit or around 230, 232 Celsius. I don't know, ChatGPT told me that. So If I'm wrong, do your own calculation. Let it preheat for this full 30 to 45 minutes. We really want that temperature all throughout the oven. Let your oven preheat longer than you think is a good idea when it comes to baking your pizza in your oven. Now that that second rise is done, it's time to make a pizza. I like to roll it out onto a floured surface and push it down again to release those air bubbles. And then my friend Tom from the Backyard Palette, whose Instagram and TikTok have really seriously blown up. He's a super awesome dude that makes incredible pizzas. Go check him out. I'll link to him in the description below. He says to form your crust first, even before rolling it out or stretching it out. Forming your crust first really helps to shape your pizza into that perfect circle, and it really does work. It really does help. I've always struggled with forming that perfect circle, but this method really does help out. And then just take it and kind of spin it and pull and stretch it on your floured surface. If you want, if you're not getting enough give, go ahead and just kind of put your fists under the flour and just kind of work it around and pull and turn it and pull and turn it and pull and turn it. Don't pull too hard because you don't want your dough to rip. You'll be able to feel how strong your dough is while you're doing that. If you feel like it's getting too weak, maybe stop and work it on your counter a little bit more. Once you have your dough about the size of 11, 12 inches around, you want a stainless steel pan that has a nice thick bottom to it, okay? This Heritage Steel Eater pan is amazing. It's 5 plies thick. I love these pans. They're affordable and they cook beautifully. And they will last you forever with no non-stick bullshit in them, okay? You can absolutely use cast iron as well. One of my other favorites. Regardless of what pan you use, just make sure that we coat it nicely with olive oil and rub it around all over the pan. Then we're going to take our pizza dough and carefully plop it right into the pan over all of that oil. If you see any bubbles in your pizza dough, like just pick it up, pick the pizza dough up and let that air escape and plop it back down, okay? Now the fun part, we add our sauce. I like to put the sauce all the way up to the crust. I hate when sauce doesn't go to the crust. Now I'm gonna cover it in 100% shredded provolone cheese. It's definitely better to get a block of cheese and shred it yourself, but in a pinch, if you need to do the old bagged shredded cheese, go ahead and go for it, but you will save money in the long run by buying a block and shredding yourself, and it will melt so much nicer and it will taste so much better. Once you have all of your toppings, all of your pizza, you don't have to do this next step, but I like to because it adds a little bit of extra crunch to the crust and a little bit of flavor, and it makes it nice and golden brown. I like to take an egg wash with a little bit of garlic powder and just brush it on the outside of my crust. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, we're cooking at 450 degrees, that's gonna burn. I'm telling you, it doesn't burn, especially on convection. It comes out delicious and it adds an extra flavor crunch to the pizza that you may have never had before, but totally optional if you don't want to do it. That's just 1 whole egg, a splash of water, and a little touch of garlic powder, and then whisk it up and brush it on. Now you're gonna bake your pizza in that 450 degree oven with that pan. Just throw it right in there. I like to move the rack of the oven all the way to the bottom as close as I can get it. And that's where I like to cook at in the oven on convection. I keep saying it because it's important. Convection is important. Like I said, if you don't have convection, a normal oven's gonna be fine, but you may have to move your pan around a little bit. No big deal. And you're gonna bake your pizza for around 15 to 20 minutes. Now, after around the 10-minute mark, I like to go ahead and get the pan and be careful, use a towel or a hot pad or whatever, and grab that pan and then take a spatula and just kind of work that spatula around the crust, because that egg wash, or if you got some cheese or sauce around that edge, that will end up sticking to your pan a little bit. So you just wanna break that up a little bit, and then it'll slide right around super easily. So I just wanna break that up and then take a peek at the crust while I'm doing that to see how that crust is browning up. You want your topping to be like bubbly. It's just gonna be bubbling and delicious. Your house should smell amazing at this point. And then after that first 15 minutes, check the bottom of the crust, lift the pizza up a little bit, just slightly. You'll be able to see how well it's browning. If it's not brown enough, let it go a little bit longer. Or if the top is cooked to your liking, but the bottom isn't, go ahead and pull the pan out and put it right on your stove and turn on your burner and let the burner toast up your crust from the bottom, okay? This works every single time. You may get a little better crunch by doing it this way. Now, once your pizza crust is done to the level that you like and your pizza toppings are done to the level that you like, it's time to just pull it out of the oven or right off the stove if you're browning up that crust. And the best part about this pizza, take your spatula, just kind of work it around the crust a little bit, make sure it's totally loose, and you just dump it right in your cutting board. It should just slide right out of the pan. And this pan is so easy to clean at this point. Now, let it cool for a couple minutes and then slice. Let it cool again after slicing. Don't jump right in, otherwise you will not feel the top of your mouth for a couple days. I'm sure you've been there. This is what happened to me while taking this bite right here. Now, like I said, this pizza is super easy to make, super delicious. You should have a perfectly golden brown crust on the bottom, perfect golden brown thick crust on the edges. Your cheese and your pepperoni should be done and gooey, and you know, take a bite of that pizza because you know it's gonna be delicious, and it is. If you're gonna give this pizza a try, comment down below, tell me the toppings you're going to put on it, if you're going to change it at all. If not, just tell me you're gonna try it. Let me know what you think of this recipe. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you wanna see the best bread you can make for a sandwich, make sure you're subscribed, because I'm gonna use this same dough that we make and I'm gonna do something that I just learned about. You're gonna see that coming up pretty soon. So make sure you're subscribed to that, because it is one of the best sandwiches that I've ever made, period, ever. So, as always, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.